3, 4. No, I don't wanna fall in love with you.
Alright, so we're on scene of the video shoot. Got a bunch of video equipment, a bunch of outfits, cue sheets, cameras. We got tons of lighting coming up, and we're hitting this desert scene, which probably hard to see in the sun right now. We also got a driveway scene that's really cool with a infinity point going out. And so I'm getting excited here. We're getting ready to light up this desert and do this really cool scene. I told this story on the channel about me being off of work for a week and trying to figure out a new hobby. And nothing was really coming to mind until I thought, well, what did I want to do as a kid? What were my dreams? And that turned out to be building a kit car Lamborghini. So I started doing the research, and one thing led to another to finally wanting to build the Factory 533 hot rod. In that process of research, I came across a channel called Tavarish, where this guy named Freddie was rebuilding a jacked up Gallardo Lamborghini. And I was fascinated by it, since there wasn't information out there on how to do this. This led me to watching other car channels and seeing what kind of income people were making from these channels. Well, it turned out I'm in the media business. Why don't I give it a shot vlogging my experience and putting the Factory 5 motto to the test? You could build it in your garage with just a few tools. And Street Rod Jim was born. They always say your uniqueness or gifts set you apart from others. And I started thinking, the thing that sets me apart from the average influencer or car enthusiast is I own a commercial recording studio that records music and bands, voiceovers for movies and TV, ADR for Hollywood, and film for music videos, commercials, and educational programs. I run another business that consults and sells boutique pro audio recording gear, builds home and commercial recording studios, and acoustic listening spaces. And I'm also known as an educator in the pro audio recording world, where I have starred and produced high-end educational courses. So with all those skills, it's highly probable I should be able to figure out how to create a pretty decent-looking YouTube car channel. I own high-end cameras with real lenses and real studio microphones, where most YouTubers do not. So I should be able to compete well with the quality and look of my channel. Another thing that sets me apart is I have an electrical engineering degree. I'm schooled in scientific methodology and logic control. You know, things like if this, then that. And you could see that throughout my YouTube videos. I wasn't interested in building the car 6 times, so I'd wait something out and then only do one mock-up and then execute. It took me longer time-wise, but more efficient physically. I'm not 20 anymore, and I don't have a crew working with me, and I have some disabilities. Otherwise, the car would have been done a lot faster. And it's funny because I ramped up my vlogging skills and found my voice by creating research videos, car show videos, and then lightly restoring a Corvette, and then delivery day.
So delivery day arrived a year after we moved into our home, as we were gifted the ability to be Jim's neighbor. So I was being all super sneaky about it because I didn't want anybody to see me like checking out what's going on. So I went into like the front room and I snuck through the little curtain and I was like, oh, there's the truck, it's coming in. I'm like, that's ginormous. Like, how in the heck are they getting this huge semi-truck in here with like all these magical parts to put this car together? It's just like incredible. And sure enough, there it was, big and bright and just all its glory. I felt like it was like the greatest showman coming to our stage. And I was like, wow, this is like such a magical moment for us to be able to be a part of and just see this all come to life. And then he invited us over to help him, with little odds and ends and putting it together. So you kind of feel like you're a part of, like a team gym or whatever. So it was quite awesome to be able to learn things and, do something new that you've never done before. So
If you're a longtime viewer of the channel and you didn't notice, I was hired to film a commercial for Stewart Transportation. They are the official transportation company for Factory 5 Racing. Well, I have a delivery coming and they needed a commercial, so it was a win-win for everyone. Now, if you watch my delivery day video, you will see it's a little dumbed down, different camera angles, and a little more raw compared to watching the Stewart Transport commercial, which was highly polished. You will also see there is no shared footage between the two. I like to keep things clear and defined. If someone paid for that footage, I'm not going to be using it for my own benefit and use it on my car channel, even though I took the footage. That is a business distinction in how I like to do things. Even the drone footage from the commercial video was totally a different route. We just had the driver drive around multiple times and take different shots. He was very accommodating.
Hi, I'm Bob, and you spell it the same way forward as backwards. I'm a professional photographer. About 5 years ago, I met Jim. He's my neighbor. He has a Corvette at that time, and so I figured he was a car guy. Well, a little bit later, we ended up calling him Mr. Detroit because he built a 33 Ford Coupe from Factory 5. Originally, Jim would have myself and my daughter come over and help him with a few tasks now and then on the car. Sometimes he needed an extra hand, sometimes he needed just someone to talk to. And it led into a relationship with really two car guys. And it was good because I've been a car guy my whole life. I guess I've been a car guy since I was about 15 years old. I just always liked cars, hot rods. We'd go out to the drag strip. I actually worked for Frank Townsend, was a big car guy back in the day. And that was when I was in high school. And at this point in my life, I'm working on an old car that I've had since I was about 22 years old. It's behind me. It's a 64 Galaxy 2-door hardtop XL, and I'm putting a hot rod engine in it, which is going to be a 406 from the year before it of 1963.
As I was coming close to finishing the building of the car, I started thinking about how cool it would be to do a music video in celebration of the car being finished. But it's not just in the video, it's a character. I also wanted to have a beautiful woman in the video. You know, what goes better together than cars, beautiful women, and rock and roll? So I went looking for a song that would work for this application. Sure, I could write my own song for the video, but I wanted to do a cover of something that everyone would know. And after 2 to 3 months of hitting the wall with my thoughts, one day, 2 songs popped in my head. One was an R&B song, and the other a ballad rockabilly song. Both I could sing, but one allowed me to intertwine the love triangle of the woman, car, and the owner of the car. And I thought, man, this is perfect. So I chose the rockabilly song, Wicked Game by Chris Isaak. It was an interesting process. I had no immediate deadline, which is not the case for my daily work. So I just started slowly pecking at it, knowing the car wasn't going to be finished for a while. Initially, it was going to be just like the original song, a clean rockabilly ballad with clean guitars and vocals, but arranged differently. I started laying down mock-ups, and in the music world, we call that scratch tracks. These are tracks you record that will be thrown away later and never used in the final production of what you hear. It is just a placeholder to test something out, or to guide others while laying down other instruments or parts. Then you go back and lay down the final real tracks and delete the scratch tracks. My thought process was, it needs to be great or I'm not going to present this song to my audience. So it really was a proof of concept I was working on. I started with a scratch bass part and then a scratch vocal. This allowed me to test the arrangement I wanted. I always heard the intro different than the actual song. Haunting, distant, atmospheric. And then we go into the first verse. No signature guitar lick and groove like the original. Besides that, the rest of the song would be the same. But as I kept working on it, I felt that, man, I just want to rock this out. And I'd always be singing along some chugging guitar parts and some big beefy drum parts. But I would throw that out and go back to the normal vibe. I just bought this special bank of sounds that was thousands of dollars for the studio. You could do anything with it. Pull up African and Indian instruments, you could create cinematic sounds and guitar sounds. I was looking to just put some scratch tracks of distorted whole notes in the background, and then came across this pattern. Once I laid this in, I hopped on the electronic drum kit and threw a scratch drum part on, and the rock version was born.
I told him a long time ago I wanted to collaborate, and I wanted to do something creative with him, not necessarily creating my own music and then working with him sound engineering wise, right? So when we first started doing this, I think he had this vision of just wanting to stick with a slightly altered version of what Chris Isaak had in this song. And as time went on, I think he and I had talked about getting some sampled sounds. We started listening to some of these sounds, and it kind of opened up the aperture of, wow, we could really do something interesting. And pairing some of these cinematic theatrical sounds that came with this sampled set seemed to go hand in hand really well with a harder edge on the sound, right? And Jim and I had just come off of working on my last album, which was more rocked out than the previous stuff I worked on. So that kind of fell nicely into place of taking that song from where it was and turning it into something a lot harder edged and a lot beefier in the texture of the songs in there. So it was a bit of a journey, right? But as soon as he figured out that he wanted to go into something that was a lot more rocked out, it was a clear picture. It was crystal clear in where we needed to go with this, and everything really just kind of fell into place almost immediately when we decided that, or when he decided that he wanted to go down that path. And I was right alongside him as soon as he said, "I'd like to go this way," and I said, "Hell, I'm in. That's awesome. Let's do that."
The Wicked Game song. Jim and Eric's version of this song, he sent me an early copy of it, and I'm actually very familiar with the tune because early in my youth, I had a girlfriend, and she was friends with somebody that worked at Rolling Stone magazine, got us tickets to go see Chris Isaak at the Pima County Fair here in Tucson. It was his first show of that tour, of the Wicked Game tour. It was the very first show. He came to Tucson for some reason. But it was great. We were in the front row, and we got to see Chris Isaak and the band play that song. And I think as a side anecdote, she actually went up on stage and with a bunch of other girls, and they were all swooning over Chris Isaak and stuff. And I'm standing left in the crowd, where'd my girlfriend go? But anyway, so I have a good long connection with the song Wicked Game. And actually, I think we used to play it in our band many, many years ago. I'm a Fender Stratocaster aficionado, and that was the kind of guitar that song was played with. So it's a song I know very well. And when I heard Jim was going to make a remake of it, I'm always hesitant to see where are you going to take this song. It's a very classic kind of a rockabilly pop song that somehow broke through, and it has a very specific guitar tones and a nuance to that aspect. I don't know how he was going to do it, but when I first heard the track and the harmonies they put together and the rockification of the song, I was blown away. The more I heard it, the more the song got refined, and as he did post-production on it, kept adding a few things here and there. I put it in my car and I kept listening to it every day on the way to work. And that song was in my head for probably, his version of the song was in my head for probably a month straight. Certain parts of it, the solo, the part leading up to the solo is my favorite, and it's just a very powerful transition. I don't know what Chris Isaak would think of it, but I kind of want him to hear it just to see, because I don't think there's been a lot of versions of his music that go in this direction. So I'd love to hear his opinion on it too.
Eric, who is this amazing songwriter and guitarist, classical and electric, was in the studio having me add drums and mentoring him through the engineering process of creating his album. Bitten by the bug of collaboration, he kept asking if I would be willing to collaborate on a song with him. And I was like, dude, I'm literally 7 years behind tackling a list of stuff I need to do, like my own music videos and writing a book and marketing for my business, yada, yada, yada. I was like, there is nothing I would like more to do, but I'd be sacrificing things on my list to do it. Not to mention, I need to keep putting out those 33 Hot Rod SRJ videos. That alone is a full-time job. A short time after that conversation is when I actually picked the song for the video. This was around December of 2021. Maybe he wants to contribute to this cover song for the car. Since I helped build his studio, I was okay coming to him to work on the guitar parts because I knew the quality would be there. In fact, it's fun to get out of my own office and go to someone else's creative space. We started with clean tracks similar to the original song, but then started adding the distorted 3-note arpeggiations and an epic rock guitar solo.
That he's just repeating that.
So, because the song's atmospheric in the very front, I think we do need to have some of those clean elements that actually come across kind of like the original song.
Yeah, but pretty wet.
Super wet, kind of like some of the stuff on your album.
Right.
What I don't want is that signature lick that's in the song, because that's not how the song starts. No. Yeah, I don't want that in there, because that's not how the song starts anymore. It's kind of like this open, atmospheric, and
so we shit can that lick altogether and replace it with something, maybe like a clean, opens up clean, wet, vacuous. That kind of, as the song starts building, because at some point we're going to get to the middle section where it's going to be big.
right.
So we're probably going to want to layer in some distorted guitars, not huge heavy, but somewhere in
Right, like a mid-range.
in the back end, right? So we kind of marry those together, right? We pair them, we twin them. I don't know how far we go here, but
well, the whole beginning of the song doesn't really have major drums in it, right? It's just a
where do we start getting heavy on the drums?
probably where those 57 maybe.
Yeah, with the
Right. So at that point, we're gonna have to have something get bigger. The clean will still be there, but we'll have to have something get bigger.
so
to
there's
go
pretty
along
much
with
going to
it.
be this.
Kind of. So to go along with the atmospheric theme, we want just like ring and just like glistening. And what that will allow to do is have all that nuance, electronic, shaker, rhythm stuff kind of shine through.
I think we should have some picking in there. If we just do this, the whole time it's gonna be kind of bland. I think we should have some maybe layer
on the clean.
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
layer this so it's real faint in the background, and then have something that's picking, like a. And that's when we add the.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So, can we maybe try, and along with the theme of the atmospheric, like not as many notes, so maybe like. Bow, 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 bow. Yeah, that will do two things. It will kind of clear it up, but it will also get rid of a lot of that low end that's just like sucking up space. That way we can kind of clear that area. I really like the bending of the bridge because that it's kind of like alluding back to the original version, right? Where there's like bendy guitar things going on, so it kind of really has that flavor, even though it doesn't sound anything like the original, but it gives it the flavor of the original, you know?
All right. So what do you want on this solo? Do you want shred, rage, bluesy, meaty?
I think, most rock songs have like a blues structure, if you will. So bends are really cool. It doesn't have to be wailing the whole time, but we want those moments of brilliance that kick in. In general, that's super tasty. But if you feel like you want, add a little extra to it, you can.
name's Eric. I'm a guitarist, lifelong musician, recently turned into a sound engineer. Probably within the last 10 years or so, I produce my own music in this studio here. So my parents bought me a classical guitar when I was 6 years old. I taught myself how to play for the first, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years, and then started taking classical guitar lessons. And then throughout junior high school, I was also taking blues and jazz and theory and some other stuff, but have always gravitated towards the classical, Spanish classical guitar genre of music, and have been doing it my whole life. So even to this day, I still carry the classical guitarist nails around with me, although I'm not doing a lot of plucking on acoustic nylon string guitars right now. Man, I'm all over the map. So I've done everything from classical to soft rock, jazzy kind of stuff, to my last album was fairly hard-edged, hard rock kind of stuff. And the one that I'm working on right now is probably even a little bit harder, more leaning towards metal. So I don't have a particular genre. I do enjoy raging on an electric guitar quite a bit, and all the stuff that goes with that, composition wise. About 8-9 years ago, I called Jim after I'd bought a bunch of equipment here to start engineering my own sound, and figured I needed some help from someone who knew what they were doing. So I gave him a call, and hell, we've been working nonstop ever since. I started out using sample drums on a lot of my songs, and then probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 albums ago, decided I wanted to use Jim. He's a spectacular drummer to lay down the drum tracks for a lot of the songs that I do now.
When I started the scratch layout of the whole song, I started adding in harmonies and trying options to build the song in certain parts. Basically, I had 95% of all the vocal ideas done before I even laid down the scratch drum part. This was for 2 reasons. The first reason was it was a full guide for the tonality of the chords of the song. But the other was, can I pull this off? I can pretty much sing whatever I want, but does it sound good? In my book, that's mutually exclusive from each other, and I'm glad to be aware of that. So even though I am a producer and I get to direct everyone else that is performing on the project down to the nuance of every note, pattern, tone of the instrument that I'm capturing, I personally need that direction from someone else too when I'm singing. Even though I have a good vocal range, I do not claim to be a great singer. So I need someone to help keep me in line while performing and making choices, or push me to do something that I would never thought to do. Bringing in Eric, who is meticulous like me, was the perfect person to do this with. I knew he would be on top of it, and I also knew he had the compositional ideas to offer different approaches to how I was performing the vocals.
So there's a bunch of things that we got to look at, and you might want to make notes on anything, maybe not. It just depends. This low octave will go all the way through as an overdub, right? So I'm gonna be like throwing shit away here. Don't worry about it. I might even sing this an octave up just to smooth into this next part, right? There's other things also, like coming out of this, and I don't want to fall in love. Hopefully, if I breathe it right, we're fine. If not, I'm gonna fall away on this, and then we're gonna have to punch stuff in. Now the other thing is like, so on this transition, no I, like you could tell that was nice and smooth, right? If it's not smooth, or if the I's like no I, like we might want it edgy, we might not. I don't know until you hear it on tape and go.
The way everything is wet in the background, I think you want the ramp, right? I don't think you want it edgy.
No, but I'm saying like the tone itself could be instead of, smooth. And then the other thing is
I'd make the first one smooth and the second one edgy. Then let's hear how it sounds.
Yeah.
Where we got.
And then the other thing is I could go, no, I don't wanna fall in love, and then listen to Don't Fall. No, I don't wanna fall in love. That might be too much. That might be too much. That's all like need a set of ears to go, what do you think about this? What do you think about
I
that?
don't like the T.
Okay, I don't either, but I just need to find what flows. The other hardest part for me, it's not hardest, but when I practice it a cappella, there's all the time in the world. And then when I play it in the song, there's not enough time. But what I'm trying to do is, let's see. It's strange what desire will make foolish. It's like the wheel comes in faster than I want, so I might not get the bend I want, or it just goes, desire will make foolish. And that's one of my hardest things. And don't get me wrong, I've been practicing the shit out of this, but it's one thing when you're doing it real time, it's another thing to listen back to.
That's why you have me here to have another set of ears on.
Yeah, absolutely. We start taking takes.
So how many takes are you good for before you start losing your voice?
That I don't know because I think I'm good in general, but I don't know just because, like, you can tell my voice is maybe a little trashed right now, and that's just from all the singing I've been doing all week. And then,
What I'd like to do is just do like we do when you're doing drums. Just fucking go,
yeah,
warm up, let's see where shit's sitting,
right,
and then start tweaking after a run or two through at least the first half of the song.
yeah, I'm cool with that. And I might not be able to get to this low the way I want to today. In the mornings when I wake up, I got all the low in the world, which is awesome.
Because you're dried out from sleeping.
Yeah, it's great. Think of Queensryche. Got a good voice, I've been my best friend. It's evil sounding, right? There could be things like, which I might not be able to do right now, but what a wicked game you play. Like it might be cool, and it might be like, dude, it just sounds cheesy.
No, I think that'll sound badass.
I would like to get some of that shit across.
Yeah.
Make me feel this way. A little bit more, just a hair vibrato, not much. But I don't want shakiness. I want vibrato. And I honestly, like right now, I'm just not feeling the low. But the high sounds fine right now to me. So
Why don't you run the whole thing in high
yeah,
from the start of that section?
as far as I'm concerned, this is the last thing we'll even try today.
Yeah. But what I'm saying
And I
is,
might come in tomorrow morning and just do the low.
because the first thing that came in my mind, it's completely out of the blue, is what you just did, where you kind of dropped off one of those words.
Right.
If you dropped it off and echoed it, if there's enough space between that and the next one to kind of echo it in the mix
Okay.
with maybe some distortion, something like that, where it's kind of, because this whole thing needs to be edgier than just the way the dude with the hair sang it the first time, right?
Right,
So I think by having
The
your,
dude with the hair.
yeah. You know what I'm talking about. What's his name? Chris Isaac?
Chris Isaac.
Yeah, he's got the fucking hair. You know what I'm talking about. All I'm saying is, if you had that, because that's the way I would do it. If I was guitaring this, I would start off with octave tracks, and then I could just quick peek into a high part if you want to emphasize some stuff.
Okay.
Just a suggestion. This is all your baby, so.
Sure. What a wicked game you play to make me feel this way. What a wicked thing to do to let me dream of you. What a wicked thing to say. You never felt this way.
I have a suggestion on your two with you, so no, I don't want to fall in love with you. On your second with you, why don't you speak it?
With you,
No, talk.
with you.
Yeah,
Breathy?
yeah, fuck yeah.
With you.
That'll give you some variety, and I think that sounds badass.
Okay. With you. With you. I'm also, like reading is taking me out of the emotion of it too. And then I'm trying to close my eyes, and then I'm like, I'm not following the words because I'm on the spot,
You don't have the lyrics memorized?
No, and I've never had to. Like, I've always been able to just, but for some reason,
Stage fright?
I think it's 2 months. I practice scales and get my voice ready, and then I've only done this for like 4 or 5 days. So.
It seems to me that phrase could really use something, right? Some fire and brimstone isn't the right version because this isn't that kind of song. But I keep feeling like there needs to be some kind of.
Well, we could. I don't know what it would sound like an octave up, but coming out of the guitar solo would cut through more. The world was on fire, and no one could save me but you. It's strange what desire will make foolish people do.
Fuck yeah, let's do that.
You better go quick.
Here we go. Hold on, I'm gonna back it up.
The world was on fire. The world. The world was on fire, and no one could save me but you. It's strange what desire will make foolish people do. With you, my world is on fire with you. With you.
Exactly.
My world is on fire. With you.
You know how James Hetfield kind of does that? We're gonna mult over that and maybe try a third one.
Okay.
Here we go.
With you.
Fuck yeah, that's great.
So, I just wanted to give you an example of what my voice sounds like this morning, which is really low, and it's due to me singing for 4 hours yesterday. And then today I'm coming in purposely in the morning so it's low to get some of the low parts of this song, because yesterday I was burning in my voice at high volume. So it probably sounds really weird, so I'm not going to talk much. I'm just going to go straight to singing, but just wanted to give you an idea of some of the trials and tribulations of doing this process. The world was on fire, no one could save me but you. It's strange what desire will make foolish people do.
Getting the opportunity to produce Jim's vocals in the studio was a new experience for me. I'd never done a lot of vocal, any sort of vocal work, right? So sitting down, and I knew what I wanted to hear. I knew the sounds that I wanted to get, at least in my opinion. So egging Jim on a little bit to harden the edge a little bit in some of the stuff that we were doing in Wicked Game, I think was it was new for both of us, right? He wasn't expecting to walk into that studio and do some of the things that he did or ended up doing, and I think it was really cool to have that motivation to get him to bring something out. I mean, hell, anyone who does music production has lived that rush, right? Where you are working with someone collaboratively and they're trying their best to create something and put something out, and together you come up with something that sounds pretty damn good. And I think that happened with Jim and I there in the studio.
Oh, it just balances it so nicely. The whole orange thing's nice, but it's like you're drumming in a log cabin with candlelight. It's all red. Or you're on
Yeah.
a submarine. It's
Sure,
just that
sure.
extra little accent of blue always just pops the corners and
Nice.
gives you back the rock and roll.
Rock and roll, baby.
ND is great for bright outdoor shots, but in here, I think when we have full control of the lighting, I'd probably clear it out and just let us deal with amount of light that we have to work with. But in here, I probably
Oh,
would
we
let-
do. Oh, we do have full control.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Sorry, didn't know. Oh, for some reason I was thinking it was just
Fix 2.8.
fixed to it.
Unlike being a vocalist in the studio, recording and performing drums is a profession of mine. This is something I'm able to do all on my own and nail, unlike the vocals where I need someone giving me direction. Now that the tracks were finally starting to come together and the proof of concept was a go, it was time to knock out the real drum track. I think I did 1 or 2 takes and it was done. Most of what I played was similar to what I laid down with electronic drums, which was a one-taker. I seem to naturally do well with spontaneity when recording drums, compared to overthinking it and practicing the life out of it. Now this song is about the vocals and the guitar solo, so I'm not putting crazy drum fills or such, but the groove is solid. The cymbal work is accenting the guitars, and along with the cinematic percussion sounds, it's a badass groove.
Sounds good, the recording you got.
Yeah.
Good singing too, man.
Yeah, I like that better. One's a little nicer.
I have been working with Rich for 25 plus years in the studio. I could basically sneeze and he'd be like, "Oh, so you want more wind tone with that pad sound?" So when I needed orchestration for the middle of the song, he was the one to bring in. There was always going to be orchestration in the song, but now that the storyline of the music video was coming to life, I extended the song in the solo section to have more time on camera. This meant we needed an orchestration section before the main guitar solo.
I'll tell you what it feels like is happening, even though whatever you're doing is whatever, but because of the sound, it feels like it's just like thickening and thickening and thickening.
Yeah.
But I think I'd rather have almost like different, I don't want to say textures, but maybe
Frequency.
certain things maybe drop out and move so
yeah,
it's,
yeah, I know
it's
what you
twisting a little bit instead of just
Yeah,
this.
just expand.
Because right now I just feel like I need to like slowly bring the volume down as it gets bigger, which is fine, but then it's almost root
Yeah.
notish again, you know?
I'm thinking maybe as the low frequency could come in.
I don't know if you noticed, but the solo is twice as long. Second half is electric guitar. First half is still this beautiful orchestration.
Yeah.
And so that could be an actual part of orchestration. I could get Michael Ronstadt to actually do
Cello.
an individual lead while there's a full orchestration going on. But it is orchestrate. That is the orchestration area, and if you're able to do it 100%, I'm totally cool with that. It doesn't have to be a real
Yeah.
celloist or anything like that.
Yeah.
It could be just a badass orchestration in there.
Yeah, I like the idea of like a different part. Not just a drawn out whole note thing.
Yeah. Right.
Right here?
One more. It's half of this.
Yeah.
And,
Right here? You want to start here?
I like the back and forth. Yeah. A little more dynamic.
Yeah, totally.
So it's really
It's like
funny.
an eruption. Yeah, it is a loop. So,
I don't know if I've told you about some of the ideas of what I want to do for the video, but it's the whole car, the girl, and all that stuff.
yeah.
But I want to actually have Eric in the video for the guitar solo. And so I'm at his house, and we're discussing some things and that. And he's in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of the desert. And so I'm like, looking out his windows, and I'm scoping the spot, right? You're like, where can I find a spot? And so after 2 or 3 hours, we're done doing stuff. I'm like, all right, man, I'll see you later. And I go walking outside to my car, and right, literally off the driveway, it comes up like literally on that kind of a grade, comes straight up with saguaros and all this stuff, and then his driveway goes kind of behind that and out. And so all you see, even though there's other houses and stuff around, all you see is, it would be like we're in the middle of the desert, you wouldn't know, and then you would see the sunset, because it goes right to the sky. And I'm like,
There it is.
there it is. And I could put my camera on the actual driveway and not be in the middle of the desert. Like, it was just like, just freaking perfect, I was like, oh, this is great.
What is hilarious is during the proof of concept phase, without one real track on this song, I had 70 plus tracks of audio going. Never in my life have I done that big of a proof of concept. Musicians would come in and say, wow, that sounds really good. And I was like, this is all scratch tracks. It's all going away. I haven't actually recorded anything real yet. The process I usually take when producing is record 2 or 3 scratch tracks as a guide, record all the real instrument tracks, and then delete the scratch tracks along the way when they're not needed anymore, and then mix it all together only after everything is recorded. Mixing is the process of blending all the original raw individual tracks down to the stereo mix. It's the final balance of everything you hear in the stereo spectrum, just like you would on the radio. This is somewhat true in this process, but there was so many tracks, 70 plus, that needed to be heard cleanly while performing other tracks, I had to quasi-mix as we went, and then finalize it later. Trying to fit 70 plus tracks into 2 speakers is not easy. And then you have to watch out for production sickness. You've now heard it a million times one way, and you're thinking, it's good enough, but you haven't actually mixed it yet and given it your all. So you kind of have to rip off the Band-Aid and start from the beginning, making sure you preserve the character of everything you've been enjoying up to this point, but do it for real and make it as audiophile as possible. At least that's my philosophy. It's served me well and my clients too. When we lay everything down, we put a click track so we could stay in time. And then we have real drums and we have MIDI drums going at the same time, keeping some different textures. So you can hear the whole kit, and then I mute off the real drum kit, and you can hear all sorts of little things. And we have lots of guitar layers going on. Bass guitar. The whole point of making this song was to give us a reason to film a video, including the car as a character. While recording the music, concepts and visions were happening in my head at the same time. I would see scenes in my head as certain parts of the song played out. So I started creating a shot list in Excel while also drawing thumbnails of shots. Now, I am the worst drawer, like bad stick figures with the wrong perspective. It's just really horrible. But I get my ideas down on paper, and they help me describe what I'm looking for to the person behind the camera. I kept thinking about all the people I know that are videographers to take my place behind the camera and get the look of what I want. And if you've watched my channel and you know how meticulous I am, that is not an easy task or place for the videographer to be in. I am a go big or go home kind of guy, and it better be Hollywood quality or we're not doing it. One thing I do not do is celebrate mediocrity. I just don't. There are certain things in my life I don't care about, like my viewers would say, Jim's backyard. But in this case, this is something that means a lot to me. It is my passion and dream, so it better be damn good. So I kept thinking about one of my friends that I have not seen in a while, who is a phenomenal photographer. He captured images of a lot of models, worked with me on an educational Studio Edge series for all the promo pictures of the equipment, and it just so happens he is a car guy. Not sure how much he knows about video, but he knows lighting really well. And I have all the equipment, he has a ton of experience with lenses and light. Maybe with a little direction, I think we might be able to pull this off together.
My name's Joe Ancona. I'm an engineer, and Jim and I have been friends for 20, 25 years now, and we have a lot of hobbies that cross-link, and it's allowed me to work with him quite a few times over the years. I have quite a few hobbies, and one of them was music, especially. I was a guitar player in cover bands, and one of my best friends eventually broke off and had his own band, and asked Jim to make a studio album for him, and that's where I originally met Jim. And eventually our paths crossed when he asked me to do a photo shoot for him, as I had been doing a semi-professional photography for quite a long time. So I had that music background, I had a photography background, and he needed some assistance doing some promotional photography in his studio. So we did a big photo shoot back then, and from then on we kept in touch and done a lot of other projects along the way. And I'm happy to have been asked to do some collaboration with him on this music video. Cars have been a big part of my life for the last 12 to 15 years or so. I've been collecting BMWs. I've had about 27 BMWs, I think, is my last count. And generally, I restore them or refresh them, fix all the things that other people have neglected. There's quite a few classics out there that I really glommed onto a certain time frame between 1997 to 2006 era BMWs is my specialty, and really enjoyed having those cars in my collection and turning them over the years. I've since moved on to Mini Coopers, the BMW Mini Coopers from the 2005-2006 time frame. That's my focus right now. A little bit cheaper. You can store more of them in the same garage space, which is nice. But they're just as expensive and just as a pain in the butt to work on. But I do enjoy that mechanical aspect of it. Always involved in the car clubs, the BMW club, the Mini Club. It's always been something that I've been involved in. Whenever you get inside of a car hobby, it's always nice to have another collection of people around you that can support your efforts and understand all your obsessions. I've been around cameras my whole life. My dad has been a photography aficionado and camera collector, like lots of cameras, hundreds of cameras. We've always had trunks of them throughout the house when I was a kid growing up. Video projectors, film projectors, and the exposure to photography and lenses and cameras has been something that I've had in my life from day one. So I eventually started with 35 millimeter film cameras. Had a little Sears K-body camera that I took everywhere and shot film for years. Eventually got into digital photography, of course, and went to the Nikon platform, and I've been shooting that for probably 20-something years. So having an opportunity to shoot with these new video cameras, which are amazing in what they can do, the understanding of light and lenses and just all the little scientific nuances that go with photography were really instrumental in helping me understand what I needed to do with a modern camera platform. And so I like to shoot still photography, but video has always been an area where I really wanted to get into, and this is a great opportunity for me to go there.
So once Joe signed on to the project, we started slow with some shots of the half-lit face and some green screen work. We also did the drum shots. This allowed Joe and I to get acclimated to the camera technology, which was brand new.
So you can see how the intensity is increasing because we're focusing it. So that's fully focused. I can turn the intensity down, but keep it focused.
Right.
Because we don't want to illuminate anything else if we can avoid it.
Sure.
So keeping it focused is a plan there, but I'm still struggling with the shadows, making sure. Like, I guess we do have a decent amount of that eyeshadow.
The camera we are using has 4 technologies in one and is a handful of memorizing what buttons do what while trying to be creative. However, it allows us to get everything we need in one camera package. But not easy to just pick up and go filming with. You have to kind of figure it out. Even for me, who's a total tech nut, like what? Like what button? What was that? Hold on, how does that work? It's really overwhelming. The song was pretty much done, but it wasn't mixed yet. The vocals were final though, and it had to be to start filming. Otherwise the syncing wouldn't work out. What you saw on camera and what you were hearing would be off. Filming started in October of 2022. In November, we shot the big guitar solo scene in the desert along with some vocal parts in the driveway. Everything went really well. The idea was to knock it out in a few weekends and do some post-editing for a month and be done. I slated the car to be finished and arriving at car shows in March. However, that's not how it went. Our next film date was scheduled for January 1st, 2023 for the industrial guitar solo scene. We got everything lined up, which included the hot rod being on site, but it rained all day. Between getting the car finalized and consistent rain every other day for months, which is out of character for Arizona during that season, logistics were stalling out the video filming schedule and the car being finished. It took months to get the windshield installed, months to get the door panels upholstered, and the window trim. As of today, it's still not finished. Since this is a show car, I didn't want the car in the rain anyways. But it's not waterproof at this point, so getting the car and all these studio lights and camera electronics out in the open with the possibilities of water was just dangerous. So due to the logistical issues, I decided to start filming the storyline scenes. Our first day of filming was in late January. I picked a venue I knew would come to life with all the lights above and having a live band playing for atmosphere. The temperature was 45 degrees, and our actress Damaris was in a very thin dress. What a trooper she was. Even the band that was playing that night acknowledged both of us freezing our butts off while we're shooting in front of an audience.
As cold as us all, but you were a trooper girlfriend. She's out here looking hot as hell.
Take it back.
You're making us all feel warm, girl. You're awesome. And you look gorgeous too, by the way. One of the best producers in town, so pretty cool.
At the plaza, I was freezing. I couldn't believe I was on heels, a very short dress, and nothing on top. But it was so cold. It was really cold.
But you liked how the shots came out?
I loved it. I think that those were probably one of my favorite scenes. My name is Damaris Rubalcaba. I am a hairdresser. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I do specialize on extensions and hair color. The opportunity of meeting Jim came by a mutual friend, one of my clients actually. She did mention to me that Jim was making a video and he was looking for a girl with black hair. But she did say that she was going to mention it to him, that I have red hair, but it worked out. He liked it actually. So at the beginning, I was kind of nervous how it was going to come out because I've never really seen Jim's work or anything. But no, once I saw a little bit of the clips, I was like, you know what? I know they know what they're doing. I know they got this. So after there, like I felt really good. Like I knew what they were gonna do was going to be good. That was kind of the moment where I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna look good. I know it's gonna come out good. But I was just nervous how my face expressions were gonna be.
We did a lot of shots that I really love after seeing them in post-production and how they came out and how Jim tied them together, or what segments he chose to place together. So it's hard to choose a single shot that I like, but overall, I have to say that the Plaza, St. Philip's Plaza shot where they're doing dancing, it was a very difficult lighting situation because we got all these sparkly lights overhead with the, I guess, Christmas tree lights on the dance floor. We had a band playing. We've got spotlights, shop lights, or the lighting was a disaster. But on film, it actually came out really natural, and I was happy with that. The way that they danced together, we blended that whole scene. I think the start to finish St. Philip's Plaza scene where they walk in dusk and then they dance at night. We've got band, we've got music, we've got sitting at a bar. All these elements with the fireplaces and firescapes. I'm just that blows me away. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I think as a favorite, that whole segment at the plaza there is got to be my favorite. And it was freezing cold too, so somehow we pulled that part off.
After the St. Philip's Plaza scene, we all got together again 2 weeks later to film the other scenes indoors, which was great since it didn't matter whether it was raining outside. Throughout this process, I had my friend Alexandra help with all the outfits, hairstyles, makeup, and jewelry. We would sit together and go over what I was looking for, and then get Damaris on the phone and send pics back and forth discussing all the outfits for the different scenes. Then we did the same with my outfits. We did this multiple times since there was just too much to go over. We would focus on just the outfits for a particular scene and then do it again for next week's scenes. For all the scenes that Damaris and I were together, Alex was making sure there was nothing out of place or the jacket was over the correct shoulder. I knew Joe was focused on getting the camera angle and dealing with the new camera technology, so we needed another eagle eye to make sure things did not slip by.
So Alex did a lot for our outfits. Even in one of the scenes, I didn't have heels that they wanted for the scene. So she came in clutch. She came in clutch and she lended me some red heels. And she was, I feel like she was a part of all the outfits. Like it would have to go through her to see, because she's really good at like design. She's really good at designing and everything. So she knew exactly what Jim was looking for and she explained it better to me. So Alex was a great part on the outfits.
Yeah, I do. I love your facial expression. Check this out.
Oh, she brought that sass on me too. She showed me how to be mad at Jim. How to yell at him. Alex was just, she was great. If it wasn't for her, I feel like I would have been a mess. She was like, Jim, fuck you. I'm like, I cannot talk to him like that. No, I would just cuss him in Spanish. I'm just kidding.
You serious? I feel like it's always the car or me, you know? You're so good at it.
You know, blue's my favorite color, not red.
Oh man.
Ooh. Did you see that look? That's a question.
Pero ¿cómo que te gusta más el azul y no el rojo?
And one more
¿Y
thing.
sabes qué? Tengo que ser yo la prioridad, no el carro.
No, that was perfect. That was good. I love when she's nasty at you in Spanish.
Oh, shooting Damaris in the bedroom. That was a fun scene. I've done a lot of photography with models, and so I've worked with the modeling folks and makeup and all that sort of thing. This was a little bit more last minute and unplanned. So it was a very short segment that we did, and we kind of had to get in and get out. We didn't have a whole lot of time to shoot the bed scene. But Alex was there to make sure Damaris was exposed in the right quantity and level without anything showing that shouldn't have been. and I just had a very, very tight physical distance that I could shoot the way the bedroom was set up. So we didn't really have a whole lot of angles to play with, and I just tried a couple up, down, vertical shifts and a focus pull on the nude photo that was in the background, and we got one good shot out of it. I think there's a few that were usable, but the lighting is really critical on a shot like that, because you really have to get the body curves well lit, but in an artistic way, similar to what we've tried to do with showing the car's curves. And that was, I think, the parallel there was Damaris' body versus the car's body. And in the end, I think it's a great little quick shot there. Because we have this 3-character concept with the car, Jim, and Damaris, and there's this kind of love triangle going on there, we tried to make a lot of parallels and comparisons between the car and Damaris, and some of those were organic and natural, and other ones were planned. But overall, I think we just kept stumbling across these themes that worked well, and having shots of Damaris side by side with shots of the car to try to make those correlations without being too obvious was the trick. And overall, I think the result was exactly what we were after, in showing Jim polishing the car and then rubbing Damaris' hip on the chair, and those types of things go hand in hand, and they're fairly obvious, but they did take some planning, and we actually had quite a few more planned that we didn't end up executing. Like, I think we were going to try to do donuts with the car and have her swinging around on the dance floor and things like that. That would have been kind of cool, but there's only so much we can stuff into a 5.5-minute video. So, but overall, I'm really, really happy with us making that decision to try to make those parallels, because it really ties the whole storyline in together.
So Jim and I were actually working on some interviews. I think it was right around the time that I had let my last album out. We're in the studio going through the equipment and the hardware that I have here. And on one of those trips, he walked out the front door of my house and said, "Dude, this is it. This is where we need to do our next video, is right in your driveway," which is, fairly natural desert, built out desert kind of stuff. And I said, okay, I had a little bit of a different vision on how we want to do this, because I was envisioning, because this is a car thing, right? It's a muscle car thing. So I was thinking hard rock, muscle car. I'm thinking, industrial scenes with sparks flying, kind of stuff in a warehousey kind of place. So I didn't see that, although Jim by that point had already built this entire vision of how this music video was going to look. So I went along with it, and as it turns out, towards the end, we ended up doing the scene at one of the places in downtown here that kind of had that vibe. Right, we had a dude behind the car. I think he was using a grinder on a piece of metal, puking out sparks as I'm sitting there playing in front of the car. So it kind of turned out to be what I had originally envisioned. But I think the two of those things kind of fit together really nice, because it was. Based on some of the other scenes with the car hauling ass away with the girl in the car and that kind of stuff. I think it all kind of fit together in a good storyline from start to finish there. So when we were shooting that scene out in the front yard with the desert backdrop there, I was kind of shooting for, because of the way the whole lighting and the scenario was set up, which was actually pretty epic, with the sunset behind me over the hills and the lights that we had going on there. It kind of made me feel like it was almost a concert venue in the way we had things set up there, at least the way it looked from my vantage point. So it was one of those where I wanted to feel like I was in a metal concert raging out on the guitar. So that led me to a fairly concert-esque, if you will, kind of stance for that particular scene, anyways. And that kind of carried through for the rest of the videos that we did. The industrial-ish kind of scene at a bar downtown. That all kind of carried through that same throughout all the rest of those videos.
When Eric brought up the industrial guitar solo scene, it had a lot of merit. I mean, it's an epic guitar solo, right? So that's raw, industrial. So give the man what he wants. Since that is a high energy area of the song anyways, it was going to be easy to blend it in with the desert solo scene and the cars racing by. It would be heightened by the energy on the screen. So I set out to find an industrial area. And believe it or not, I was talking to multiple people about what type of metal needs to be used to create the sparks. Because this one will be yellow and titanium will be white, but no, you have to use magnesium, and it got a little crazy. A little way too far down the rabbit hole. The day before we did this scene, Bob was mentioning he could help out, and I was like, can you bring your grinder? The week leading up to the industrial shoot, I was scrambling to make sure all the scenes were accounted for and documented. I had to make sure the car was ready to drive for an hour round trip. It wasn't overheating, and the mud flaps were added so it was not hurting the paint. And I had to rely on others to bring all the equipment, outfits, cameras, lighting, extension cables, fans, you name it. I also had to warm up my voice a day or so beforehand to make sure I was not straining my voice while filming. And that included memorizing the lyrics at the same time. All this while I'm putting in a 60-hour work week on top of it. It was really overwhelming.
Never would I have thought that my name would have changed from Bob to Sparky. I was sitting on the ground behind the back tire, and I was grinding this piece of steel on the grinder and throwing the sparks out the back as he was playing guitar.
When I drove the car down and got it into position for filming, I decided I wanted to pull it up one more foot. When I went to put the car in drive, I could not shift it. It would only go into park and reverse, not neutral or drive. My brain freaked out. How am I getting this car home tonight? How am I getting it to the upholstery shop scheduled for next week? What about the desert scene we're filming in 2 weeks? I was cool on the outside, but the bandwidth internally was fully taken up with what-if statements. To add to all these issues, our lighting controller for the stage lights actually died on the spot. And my buddy Ruben, who's controlling the lights, he's taking the control apart, opening it up, seeing if it's an easy fix. And then he's coming to me like, hey man, the lights aren't working. And I'm just sitting there thinking, the car doesn't work, the lights don't work. Like, what else is going to happen tonight? So I tell him to put them in manual mode and let's just move on. And he's like, well, I'm not sure they're really going to go into manual mode. And I abruptly cut him off due to me just being freaking overwhelmed at that point. And I'm like, yes, they will. Download a PDF and figure it out. And then I turned and I walked away. I was just losing it. And he ended up getting them in manual mode afterwards. And at this point, the car was in close enough position, and it took 3 months to get to this point. So let's just film and we'll figure out how I'm getting home later.
Being a car guy and knowing how frustration can set in at times when things don't go right, the car being stuck in gear and us being an hour or two later to finish the photo shoot and then having to go home, I had thought the worst was going to happen.
We got a little panicked. We've got all this video gear spread out all over the place. It's a whole, production. And now our main subject, the car, isn't moving in the forward direction. So it kind of panic set in. But, I'm fairly mechanically inclined. I work on cars almost every week. And so I knew there's going to be a solution. I just didn't want to have Jim put his car up on a trailer because I've had bad luck with tow trucks and things like that. This isn't the kind of car that you want to just put some hooks under the front and drag it home. So I know Jim was really concerned about what we were going to do if we couldn't get that into gear. And fortunately, it was just a matter of rocking it and getting the linkage to click into place and getting that car home. But once he got going, he wasn't going to stop, and we're never going to come out of gear until he got back into his garage.
So at this point, we're 4 months into shooting this video, and we have one more major scene to shoot outside in the middle of the desert. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it was going to take 6 months to shoot this video. Joe suggested a desolate area 45 minutes out of town, which was perfect. But now, will the car be solid enough to do this? I was just in the middle of radiator issues with the car. The front tires are flinging rocks on the new paint job. even though I added mud flaps. Taking it for a 1.5 hour round trip in the desert was not a sound idea. So now we have to get a trailer involved, and you could just see between how the car is running and what is finished on it and the logistic of filming every detail and scheduling 5 or 6 people who all have busy lives. It all has to be thought of and integrated into the process and pre-production of what we are doing. And I'm thinking to myself, can you just finish the side panels of the car so I could film it? Can I have a windshield, please? Here I'm shooting SRJ videos, and you could hear my frustrations of getting the car finished, but I'm purposely not talking or telling all the other havoc that's going on while filming the music video because I didn't want to ruin the surprise to my audience.
Jim and I did a lot of pre-production meetings. I personally do a lot of things off the cuff, and to be honest, quite a few of the shots that we did in this video were just developed on the spot organically, and that's kind of how I operate. And I do like a plan, but I had to get used to Jim's pace because he really wanted to storyboard everything and have every nuance established in the pathway forward for every shot. So that took me some getting used to for me, but in the end, I'm glad we did it because there were some instances where we would have been completely, wasting hours and hours of time to try to figure out the shot as opposed to talking it out first, drawing it on a piece of paper, even through Jim's completely horrible sketching capabilities. We were still able to pull together some modicum of a storyboard and plan, and we're able to go out there and shoot the shots and check them off the list, and doing that really helped us be time efficient. In one particular, we had planned out an outdoor shot where we were doing the scene in the desert, and that was in the situation where we actually had to drive out to the location almost an hour out of town and scope it out a week ahead, see how things were going to play out. And if we hadn't done that, I don't think that scene would have even been workable, just because of all the logistical aspects of shooting such a complex scene on a desert road. But Jim is exceptionally well planned out and well thought out person, and that, like I said, took us some getting used to, but that's really the right way to do it.
I am so glad we went out the week before and figured out how we were going to do this. We would have never pulled this off. And that was my buddy Ruben, who acknowledges how important pre-production is to the success of a video shoot, especially when you're in the middle of nowhere with limited resources. Some of my clients, and also photographers that focus on stills and not video, are not used to this level of pre-production. However, they come from a perspective of capturing a moment in time, literally a millisecond. And that millisecond, that one picture, tells the whole story. So 1 or 2 cameras with a different lens on each and a flash, and they're set for any scenario. But in video, we're not capturing a millisecond. We're trying to fill a whole storyline over 5 minutes or an hour, and everything you capture has to lead to something else and has to have motivation behind it to make it work. And remember, when we're trying to make a really high quality video, we're taking what Hollywood would do with 50 people, cranes, and a diffuser, gaffers, and trying to get that into a 1 to 5 man operation and make it look 95% as good as that multi-million-dollar production. That is freeforming it at the scene. That is shooting rogue. But to pull off that rogue shot like that and get the high quality, it takes hours of pre-production, figuring out each shot, or at least how the scene will go due to the angle of the sun at that moment and other environmental factors. For every scheduled shoot we did, I spent hours on my own mapping it all out, then spent 3 hours or so with Joe showing him all those ideas, then taking his input and incorporating it together. Then we'd shoot it a day or 2 later.
Even though Jim really had a lot of things that were storyboarded and planned out to the T, there was still something missing in my mind when he brought the concept of the video to me. And I really kind of wanted a story back there. And I know there's an aspect of rock and roll videos that really doesn't matter why the car is parked on a side of the road, or there's a flower here, or some symbolism going on there. But I kind of wanted a cohesive story that you could tell somebody. That maybe they picked it up when they watched it, maybe they didn't, but at least in our minds we know that there's a reason for everything that went on in the video. And so we worked really hard back and forth and kind of developed a story after the fact of the concept of the video came out. We worked on the specifics of the story together, and I'm really happy that we did, because I like the way that the video plays out and has this menage a trois, if you will, with the car and Jim and the actress in the video. I think it came out really well. I appreciate that too, because I'm a little that way myself, but I had no idea how much of a higher level that you could go, and Jim's exemplified that during the course of this production.
The car takes off. You see me standing there. You could shoot your infinity shot, even if I cut into it a few seconds later. In between that, then we have the roses drop. Let's say it goes back to the infinity shot.
Let me get this straight here as far as the fighting goes. You guys are fighting, and she finally is like, okay, fine. She looks up, and then we cut to you pulling the roses out. Like, all right, I want to make up to her right now. This is going to be all perfect.
All right.
Pulling the roses out. I close the trunk, and she's gone. So you guys are fighting a lot. We're doing the hands in the air bullshit, and she's finally, and you're trying to calm her down. You're trying to calm her down, and so you start going over to the trunk, and she's like, okay, fine. What do you got? And you're popping the trunk. You're pulling the roses out. We get you pulling the roses out. You close the trunk. And the second you do, the car's taking off, and you're like, "What the hell?" You drop the roses, and then we show her in the driver's seat driving with the background green screen and wind blowing in her hair.
Did you drive the car?
No, I wish I would have. The one that drove the car was the guy, Ruben, that put on the red wig and pretended to be me to drive the car. But it is a very difficult car to drive. That's why I couldn't drive it, which I understand, but I wish I would have.
Another experience I had in my life that really changed my perspective on how to approach projects like this was when I was hired to record a concert. I was outside of Beijing on the Great Wall recording Alicia Keys, Cyndi Lauper, Boyz II Men, Doyle Bramhall, among other acts. And I remember in the middle of the concert, you have to remember, I'm in the studio every day of my life. It's a very isolated place, working one-on-one with people. And here I'm at this major concert on the wall, and I am in a little isolation booth to isolate me from the stage while recording Alicia Keys. And I step out of my booth, and 2 feet to the right of me is the Great Wall. On top of the wall is tons of lights pouring down, and there's haze and fog and all sorts of stuff just moving around, and the concert volume is raging and the floor is rumbling, and this is just way bigger than me. I am a part of something bigger than me, and it felt good to be a part of it. And that is something that I've tried to bring to my life and my friends. I recently read this line: passionate leaders know they are part of something bigger, and they invite others to join them. And that is what I'm doing. We are making art, and there is a passion behind it. And when you see Alexandra's face light up when she's getting super creative and, oh, hold on, you gotta adjust this, right here and this, and can you put the jacket over here? And she gets everything going. And then Joe is excited to do the video work, and he says to me the other day, when you get that lighting dialed in, email me a picture so I could see it. And Eric asking to be a part of a collaboration. And when we start rocking it out, it's like, woohoo, we're in. That is why I do this. And not all my friends get it. Why do you spend all that time, Jim? But the rest of us see it as a little spice of life, sparking vitality, passion, and we appreciate the inspiration and ability to do something different in this world. The desert scene was logistically the hardest scene to pull off, and the most meaningful payoff for the end of the video. After Joe mentioned where a good location would be, I spent hours combing all over Tucson looking for something closer, so we didn't have to travel so far. I was just so nervous with all the weird issues I was having with the car, And after 2 weeks of getting nowhere, I drove out to see where he suggested, and it was amazing. No street signs, no telephone poles or power lines, a long road with an infinity point just like I imagined. This now meant that we had to trailer out the car to the area, bring a tow vehicle and an everything else vehicle for all the clothes, supplies, equipment, and people. I just came off the car not shifting while filming the solo scene and dealing with trying to get the engine temps down, so my level of stress was high. The next week, we got everyone loaded and went out to film. As with all the days of filming, we film what we can, but we're always against the clock due to the sun going down. And that also makes for a lot of stress. When you pack everything up and you drive home, it's really not until you load the data and you see the results before you know you actually have it. At least that's how it is for me since I'm in front of the camera the whole time instead of behind it.
The lighting was harsh because we got full sun and limited lighting reflectors and things like that. So we don't have a whole lot to work with except bright sun, a lot of it, and a reflective car and two actors that are trying to have this non-verbal, but because obviously the music's playing, so you don't have any dialogue to try to tie things together. So you really have to rely on hand gestures and motions and facial expression and things like that. And that all kind of came together that day at that shoot. We had a few basic things storyboarded out, but where this person was going to exactly stand and what gestures that was going to happen really had to happen on the spot. And so fortunately we developed that little end fight there at the end of the video. And that was certainly the most challenging to shoot because number one, we're racing against the clock before the sunset. We wanted to do it late in the day, but that puts the timer on things. And, there was a lot of stuff to get done. It was challenging to have a handful of people on site. And so everybody had to wear different hats and do different things at different times, but all in a coordinated fashion so we could get the shot done before the sun fell below the horizon.
I had the pleasure of getting a sneak peek of a piece of the video from behind the scenes, and Jim had his car set up. There was all this like mystical fog, approaching the vehicle, and then all of a sudden you have this lovely, stunning woman approaching it, walking in the gorgeous swagger that she had, and all of a sudden everything's coming to life, and it's like it's spiking the attention of our neighbors, so they start nestling out of their home, and they're like, whoa, what is this, what is this, what is this? And it's like the coolest thing because you're kind of seeing the picture evolve, but you haven't seen it yet, like on the professional print, and you're like, whoa, this is intense, like this is gonna come out really good. So it was really exciting to just see that behind the scenes.
So my favorite scene to act out was where it was all dark. I was in front of the headlights of the car and it was smoky everywhere. I loved that.
I came up with the idea of shooting the woman in front of the car with fog based off of how much I liked the industrial shot where we had the car with the fog coming up from it right in the beginning of the music video. I mocked up some silhouette drawings to show Joe what I was talking about. I needed something more than my horrible scratch drawings to illustrate the point. I think I just had the original pose in front of the lights, but as we were pulling this off in my cul-de-sac, I think Joe asked her to start walking towards the camera, and then history was made. It was one of the coolest scenes in the video. I tweaked the timing to fit the crescendo of the music, and it just came out phenomenal.
Jim's attention to detail is legendary. If you've ever spent any time with Jim in the studio or behind the console, there's lots of knobs and levers and buttons to push on these types of projects, and he is very attuned to all of them. And so it's quite overwhelming sometimes, but I certainly appreciate his level of detail and attention. It always ends up being a better product in the end, even though it may be a little more laborious to get through, where you're pointing out all these little aspects of this shadow here, this sound here, this not quite the right tone I wanted. And like, really? It sounds good to me. It looks great to me, but there's reasons for everything that Jim does, and he's got a very fine eye and ear to turn those knobs and fit those buttons just the right way to give a great end result. and in the end, you end up with a much more refined product. I think that the details show through, and if you don't have that level of interest and focus, that also shows through as well. And so in the end, it almost always pays off.
So one of the things that I discovered, so Jim and I have gotten along from the beginning. When I first met him and we were working on music, he's a similar mind of how to approach the sound engineering standpoint. But in this particular case, he and I became much closer musically and friendship wise in making this video, right? Because there was a lot of back and forth, and that was really why I wanted to create, do something creative with Jim, was because I felt like the way he and I work together, which is very compatible, very, very easy to get to a logical conclusion working with him. I felt like that was the case, and then some with this music video. He was busting his balls trying to put this together. There was a lot of behind the scenes work, trying to choreograph Herd, a bunch of cats, schedule to make the different video shoots with the different folks for the end result. So there was a there was a good bit of stress trying to make that happen. But all in all, particularly in the music portion, which kind of was heavily biased before we started doing the video shooting, working with him is like clockwork. It's one of those where I don't need to explain, nor does he, with what feeling I'm going after when we're doing something. He just does this. Dude, I'm thinking this, and I can fill in the blanks almost immediately. At least I feel like I can with the stuff that he has. So working together with him has always been a joy and very easy for me musically. And I think this was a very good example of that. I think the end product speaks for itself.
When it comes to getting the look you want in a video, it's really about shooting it correctly right out of the gate. That way, when you're done with the take, you can look down, play it back, and it looks 98% exactly how you envisioned it. If not, there's no real guarantee you will get to where you want to go, at least not on my budget. I chose to get a different camera for the on-site film days compared to my main camera I use in the studio due to the look that I wanted. Then I put the right person behind the camera that I could trust to pull off what I envisioned. Then you take the terabytes of information off the camera and load it into the program and hope that you can make something out of all the footage you now have. Now, as I mentioned before, I storyboarded all the scenes, not only by thumbnails, but also by an Excel sheet, documenting what every 4 beats of the video would look like. That is some extreme detail of what needs to be where at what time. I originally started with the music scenes and then peppered in the storyline, knowing the storyline would cover most of the musical takes. This alludes back to why I extended the solo section with more orchestration.
Jim's car has one of the meanest engines in it I've ever heard. One time we were out on our street out here, and Jim needed some recording of the way the engine sounded as you were driving by. We were doing that. My daughter was out there. She was checking on traffic. I was doing the camera sounds. Jim was driving the car. And all of a sudden a kid shows up. And we go, "Where are you from?" And he says, "I just interested in what you're doing." And so he was a car guy of some type. The car certainly draws attention. And that was one of those times that, wow, it just blew that kid away. And we were glad to have him out there watching us. It was really fun. But it is definitely a sick sounding car.
Once I finished all my edits, then I colorized the whole film and then marry it up to the final audio and render out the final format. And voila, a finished music video that was about 2 years in the making. The one thing that is interesting is how the video plays out. The person who is in charge throughout the video. It is subtle, but not so subtle the second time you see it. The first scene where Damaris shows up, she is dragging me to the venue. She is scolding me at the fire scene. She is falling in love with the car on her own. She is yelling at me. I'm not putting her in her place. She is in the power position during the pillow fight. And in the end, she is in control. But she kind of was the whole time. You have this blue car, and my other love is bright red. In the beginning of the video, I am wearing blue, and by the end of the video, she is winning my heart and I am wearing red. There is a lot of subliminal concepts intertwined in the video if you look for them.
There was an interesting undertone that worked its way into the music video that I don't think I really realized until we started editing and putting the whole video together. I don't think it was a fluke. It was something that was destined to proliferate throughout the whole video, and that was the dichotomy of red and blue, team red, team blue, whatever you want to call it. But it was an interesting element that we kept seeing happen time and time again in the course of the production. And some examples that we didn't even see, even after we recognized that, we still didn't see until later. And for example, there was a scene in the St. Philip's Plaza that I really liked, that they were dancing. The chairs were blue and red. Well, what are the chances that they have blue and red chairs at this outdoor seating area? There was times where she was obviously has the red hair, but just happened to wear blue underpants. And then the bedroom scene, there's her red hair against the blue car, and the lights that we ended up choosing just by chance. I have a red gel and I have a blue gel. Okay, I'll slick those up over there. And then, later on you see that red and blue crop up. And that was not a conscious decision. It was just what we had on hand. Even from the very first day that I started shooting with Jim, I think we did the drum scenes. He just did a couple of live takes on the drums. That was like day one. That was like minute one. The first thing we do is set up some lights, and we did a red and a blue light. We hadn't any idea that color combo was going to proliferate throughout the whole video. And it's just one of those neat things that you can just keep finding new ones in the video as we go. And I don't know what to think about it. It's one of those interesting, just the universe is speaking to you things that popped in there.
So having a neighbor like Jim, with the adventures we've had, it's not so much a neighbor. It's really a friend. And it's a friend that you can relate to because he does some of the same things that I do. Some photography, cars, other items that we're in common with. When I come over to his place to ask him a question, he has a different point of view on it than I have. When he comes over to ask me about something, I have a different viewpoint than he has. And we combine those things together. And it's awesome because he ends up being one of my best friends. And that's more than just a neighbor. It's a relationship.
First of all, I wanted to say I am really grateful to everyone that pitched in to make all of this happen. That includes my friends and neighbors who helped build the car, Greg for all his wisdom and insight on the 33 and the beautiful paint job, all the musicians making the music with me, Damaris and the rest of the crew making the music video, my student Isla for helping me with this documentary. It has actually been great to see it all come together. The one thing I wanted to do with my YouTube channel was something different. You see a lot of channels with race cars that do not need a nice paint job or an interior. They could get away with the $99 Earl Scheib paint job.
Right. I'll paint any car for just $99.95.
I know, I'm dating myself. Or they drop the car off to get exhaust mods and a wrap. Or it's a professional resto shop doing a TV show. But how often do you see a guy who has never built a car go out and shoot for the stars right off the bat and do 90% of the work himself and not give up? I also have to thank my audience for championing me through the hard times of building this car. It really helped me to keep forging ahead and adding ideas into the mix. This channel would not have grown to the level it has without your support and viewership.
If you had known how long it was going to take you to make this music video, would you have signed up for it?
Man, I don't know. I mean, if you said 2 years, probably not. But if you know me, once I choose to do something, It doesn't matter what obstacles come my way, it's going to happen, whether I like it or not. I will accomplish the task one way or another. There's been many amazing things that have happened in my life in the last few years that I would not give up, and yet it has been the most challenging 2 years of my entire life at the same time, a dichotomy in itself. I have some handicaps that I deal with daily that make lifting items detrimental to my well-being. Now, factor in I just built an amazing car, and you say, well, how did he do that? Very cautiously. I accomplished a childhood dream with no real compromises, and I learned a whole new trade. That's a win. I created a community for visual people within the Factory 5 community, showing them the trials and tribulations of a high-end build and becoming a real influencer. People have bought cars from Factory 5 because of these videos. That's a win. I got to record and perform a song, even though it's not my own. It doesn't sound anything like the original, was a technical feat, and created an amazing music video which will kickstart the making of all the other music videos I want to film. That's a win. I have many accolades in the music world. A Grammy nomination from a world music album. I produced an album that won a Native American award. Performed on albums with Barry Sparks, Ted Nugent, Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top, Les Dudek of Steve Miller, and Pat Travers. I've even played a whole show with famed bassist Rudy Sarzo of Quiet Riot and Ozzy and Whitesnake. These are all amazing gifts in themselves, but I could truly say, when you do it for yourself, with your close friends and succeed, it is worth more than all the other accomplishments combined. I just might be a legit car builder, social media influencer, or even a rock star.
That's how we ended up in this. Sorry, I kind of looked at you.
Go again.
Is there a way you could do that same thing but not be so clinical about it?
Clinical?
Clinical in the sense that I have an actual medical issue?
Oh, right. Yeah, but truly clinical.
You're not talking to me. Oh, you're talking to the interviewer.
I'll start again.
Yeah.
Who's the interviewer? I'm having a conversation with the wall. Good.
I don't know, I just wanted to give Jim what he wanted.
Did you see Jim in the fire there? I don't know if you caught that. Like, that's Jim in the fire.
You're going to make a Mystery 3000 movie.
Right. Yes, we need to do that. Little talking heads.
And so today, Jim, we've solved some world problems, right?
Oh my God, here we go again?